our mind. The walls coming forth, never with the disguise. Another A-bot for you, who really wants it. Shot medals in my vocabulary. Rolling with the punches, I'm roping and jumping. Dealing with the problems, I got to be coping. Making it fit, and I click just like a Lego. I'll be Casio, but you can be tackled from the FBI to the CIA. I'm glimmering at the path from here to LA. I be from C-Town, kicking the roof down, ripping up the mic and way past sundown. As a world turn. As a world turn.
And we're back. Another week, another episode, and
We are.
one of the sadder episodes. That
Little bit of a
Ducks are done.
Well, it's happy and sad. Okay, it is happy and sad. It's kind of a neutral-ish feeling.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yep.
Because it's happy because Lake County, the champs. Lake County did it. Akron sadly did not, as I had expected. Sadly, I hate to be that guy, but I did kind of expect that. I didn't expect the way that it happened. But again, if you remember my prediction from last Monday, again, a little bit of a different time. We both had stuff come up yesterday, which is why we're doing it now instead of yesterday. But how are you, sir? How was volleyball game you did yesterday? Soccer game?
Soccer game, yeah, it was all
that was
right.
all right.
I mean, the weekend went solid. Obviously, Friday started out on not so hot terms with the Ducks losing, but Michigan salvaged a huge win over USC, so that kind of boosted the spirits. Went up to the Browns game on Sunday, watched my Giants get a win. So
I want to talk about that. I want
Good,
to blow
get the
up
football
everything
going.
offensively. Blow up everything offensively. Get rid of Watson. Keep Chubb. Trade everyone else. This offensive line sucks.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's a conversation for another day. Shall we talk some baseball, my friend? Because
sure.
again, there's a
Where
lot
you
that
wanna
we got to
start?
talk
You want to
about.
start with our champions, or
No, let's start sad. Let's get the sadness out of the way. Let's get the sadness gone. Akron almost got no hit at home. They're in game one. They came back
I was there.
and were able to get that offense moving. And quite honestly, due to some really bad fielding from Erie, we're able to win game two. Erie is a
Yup.
team that, the broadcasters hammered at home literally all broadcast long that Erie was tied for the best fielding percentage in the Eastern League, and they had 3 errors, which allowed 3 runs to score in that 10th inning, 4 errors total in that game, which is just so unlike Erie. It was insane. I was watching that and thinking, man, we got incredibly lucky to even come away with a win there in that game. And then, of course, the finale. What a heartbreaking way to end that one. I believe it was was it Tolentino that was up?
Tolentino line drive into left field, and I don't, off the top of my head, do not know who their left fielder is.
Chris Myers.
Chris Myers made one of the best grabs that I've seen ever. And that ended the game. It was crazy, and that would have tied it too because they doubled up Lampy at second. So
and again, Lampy thought that ball was down. Which why wouldn't you? I would have rounded third
for sure.
I think anybody would have rounded third and tried to go home there, because you're thinking in your head there's like a 2% chance that this random outfielder in AA baseball makes this insane Sports Center top 10 of all time catch.
Connor Cox catch.
Look, we're going to give credit where credit is due. Chris Myers, shout out to you, man. That was an absolutely phenomenal catch. And what a disappointing end it was for the Ducks, because again, you go into extra innings, who knows what happens throughout the game. Those two teams played their heart and soul out, but obviously the Seawolves wanted it just a little bit more at home, and that play from Chris Myers, man, will live in infamy.
For sure. That game, the way it went down, obviously game 2 was one of, if not the best baseball game, not just minor league, one of the best baseball games in general I've ever watched. Every inning was just, they were talking about it on the broadcast. As each inning grew, the intensity more and more throughout the game. Parker Messick pitched a great game, and then the bullpen did their thing from then on. Bradley Hanner pitched in all 3 games and was absolutely great.
What were you, so the move to pitch Davenport in that game was kind of interesting too, because me and you were kind of like, hey, he could be the
For
guy that ends up
sure.
starting. He could be the guy that ends up starting game 3. It ended up being Trenton Denholm that went and started out for game 3, which he ended up with the loss in that situation. But again, wins, losses don't mean much. Both those teams just played their hearts out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't really mind it for the spot that they were in, because it still kind of felt like, for the most part in that game, the Ducks were still trying to like battle back. The momentum was with Erie late, and then you get into the 10th inning where Erie just makes all of those mistakes. That's why Akron was able to walk away with the win there in game 2. You don't make those errors, the inning is over. Erie very well might have a shot to win that thing in the bottom of the 10th inning, because the situation is a whole lot different. It's a whole lot different when you're tied or down a run in the extra innings, especially nowadays with the ghost runner on second, the Manfred
sure.
rule, if you will. It's just, I was okay with it. It was like, what, really? You're pitching Davenport now? But I mean, with your season on the line again, let me finish my thought here first. With the season on the line, you have, again, to what we all know my opinion. I'm an Austin Peterson guy. We know where you lie. But again, I think Davenport is still really, really freaking good. And I think we all think that DeCenzo thinks that Davenport is his best pitcher. So being able to pitch him out there, trusting him, and he got out of some tough situations in that game as well. Don't mind the move at all, man. I really don't.
No, so I mean, I really get where DeCenzo is coming from, and they were saying it on the broadcast too. The Erie broadcasters were just on fire with every call.
Yeah, no, they were flawless.
They were doing great, but they pretty much said DeCenzo's going all out to win game 2, and rightfully so. I mean, I really agree with it. Obviously, if you don't win game 2, and that game was neck and neck, you're done. Your season's over.
Yeah.
So you at least have to get that game to just try something the next night, and obviously you went with Davenport, who pitched flawless the first 2 innings he went in. He went in the 7th and the 8th, and he was on fire. Threw one bad pitch in the 9th, and that's where Erie scored it in the bottom of the 9th to force extras. It was a triple, and then they hit him in with a sac fly. So only one bad pitch for Davenport. Guy Lipscomb could have played the ball a little better than he did out in right field.
Yeah, I definitely
maybe
think
a
so.
double or get out of it, but not. I love the move putting Davenport in, and then Bradley Hanner obviously shutting things down in extras. I think it was the 10th, but he actually got the call to Columbus, so he'll be joining them for their playoff series, which we'll preview obviously in a little bit, and rightfully so. But another weird thing I did not get with DeCenzo was he would play Planes for one at bat. I don't know if you caught this. He'd play Planes for one at bat and then sub Guy Lipscomb right in afterwards. It was weird.
I think especially though, like after what happened in game 1 when Planes wasn't in that lineup basically at all in game 1. I don't even think he came in to pinch hit at all.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. So again, just you didn't give him the chance to sort of get that offense rolling, which is exactly why I think he was in that lineup in game 2, because I mean, we all know Planes is an all for nothing guy. He's either going to hit you a home run, maybe 2, get on base once or twice, or he's going to strike out 4 times. That's just the player that Alexri Planes is, but you have to take that risk, especially with your season on the line. You had to take that risk.
For sure. And I mean, where you lacked in power, Milan Tolentino gave you that in game 3. He had a solo blast in a right field, and that tied it up for the Ducks. And the Ducks in bad game 3. The final score of that was 2-1. So it was just the offense couldn't get anything going. Trenton Denholm pitched a great game. I think it was 5 innings with only 1 run, which obviously isn't bad.
I'll look.
Bradley Hanner came in, and I can't hammer it home enough. The dude pitched in all 3 playoff games and was just flawless through all of them.
Yeah.
And then Zane Morehouse, I'm pretty sure, came in.
It was Magnus Ellerts.
It was Ellerts. Morehouse was game 2.
Yep.
Yeah, Ellerts pitched a good game too. So pitching was just great. I mean, obviously you're not going to win.
Denholm was the guy that did allow those 2 runs. And I mean, first of all, I thought his stuff was working really well.
Yeah, for sure.
For Denholm in that game. But I mean, you take a look at the box score here. I mean, 2 runs, both of them were earned, 4 strikeouts, 3 hits. Yeah, that's fine. But he walked 5 guys. You just can't have that in a game 3 scenario. And I'm not trying to like throw shade at Trenton Denholm or anything. you feel like maybe he could have pitched a tiny bit better. But again, that also speaks to the volume of hitters that Erie has.
How many walks did you say?
5.
2 of which were intentional walks
Yep.
to
Yeah. That's
Workman,
right.
who it was great call by DeCenzo there to intentionally walk him because
Don't pitch.
you don't want to pitch to Gage Workman.
Yeah, no.
And we found that out the hard way in Akron, where
Yeah.
he took a ball deep, and that was the only run that they needed to win in game 1.
Yeah.
So
again, just absolutely heartbreaking, but what a season it was for Ducks baseball. What a second half, especially. They were, for the most part, in that second half, lights out. I mean, I hate to say it, I do think the better team overall won, especially because Erie has the amount of bats that they had.
And Erie
Akron
just took
definitely has the
a
better-
1-0 lead over Somerset in the championship series, which continues tonight, which is also best of 3. So
Yep. Well, let's move from sadness to happiness because the captains, and shout out to Logan Petoskey, who came on and talked with us. What was it, last week? 2 weeks ago? No, last week.
last week. Yep.
Yeah, last week in a little special Sunday episode that we did. Again, shout out to him. Shout out to the captain. Shout out to the #1 overall draft pick, Travis Bazzana, and the entirety of that team. It was also really cool because the Ducks, especially a lot of the Ducks that played with the captains that year, CJ Kafis, Nate Furman, and some other guys were there to greet them for that championship series. But I'm going to go through and kind of do my best to sort of recap what has happened there because it has been quite a while, almost a week since that championship game went down. But you go all the way back to last Sunday. And again, it was just Wisconsin played Wisconsin Timber Rattlers baseball, right? They got on base. They stole a ton of bases. They ran the bases really well. And again, Lake County put some good fight in them, but ultimately the team that ran the bases better won in that game. You get back to Lake County, tremendous pitching from Wilkinson in game 2. You had some tremendous pitching for the most part earlier in that game. I should say even earlier in both games, in game 2 and game 3, the pitching was kind of lackluster and it didn't really provide a whole lot for the captains, but it got so much better as the game went along. Game 2, I mean, especially after, I want to say that third inning, I mean, it was really just control from the bottom of the 3rd onward. You had 2 huge insurance runs in the bottom of the 8th. When you're already up 4-2, you're going to be able there to get that win, as that game saw Angel Yanao. And I mean, look, dude, that guy is crazy. He is really good. He's going to be something special. Antunes got going. How about Fox getting going there in that game as well? Even the bottom of the lineup, Cozart, Advincula, and Gonzalez had 5
and
combined
Advincula
hits
came
there
through in
two.
the most clutch spots in that series. Advincula, no disrespect to Advincula, but I haven't even heard of him until I kind of tuned into the playoff race. That dude, Mr. Clutch. Advincula's nice.
Yeah, he
really
is very
like what
nice.
He has.
And I actually want to change what I said earlier because it was pitching late that kind of suffered for both of the teams there in game 3. And I know I was doing something that night. I believe it was a game or something that I was working or playing in. You really watched that game. You want to tell the people what you saw there in game 3. I watched like the highlights and replay, but I obviously didn't take it in as you did there.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the entire game, and it was a great game. It was right up there with that Akron game that I watched on Thursday. But Lake County, it was a shootout for a minute. In the early going, it was like 2-2, and then the Timber Rattlers took a
1-1. 1-1.
Was it?
Yeah.
And then they took a 4. I want to say 4-2 or 4-1 or 4-1.
Not the. You might be thinking of game. You might be thinking of game 1. Game 3. The way that I see it here.
Yep. No, you're right. Yep.
Yeah.
I was thinking of game 2. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, game 3. Cooper Pratt, obviously he scored with a fielder's error from Yanao, and then the entire lineup just woke up. I mean,
bottom of the 6th, man. That was crazy.
Antunes had a double. Jake Fox had a double. Ralphie Velasquez had a 3-run bomb that really kind of just blew it the door open. Timber Rattlers, they fought back in the top of the 8th, but then bottom of the 8th, Lake County struck again. Jake Fox had a home run. Travis Bazzana, #1 pick. He had an RBI single, and every time he gets a base hit and on base, he's going nuts. He's playing like he said in an interview after the round 1 playoff series when they clinched ahead of the championship. He said this feels more like college baseball than anything else that he's gone through. Since obviously then it hasn't been that long.
Who said that?
But Bazana, he
Okay.
said because every game counts. He's like, oh, like before. I forget exactly what he said, but he was like, when I got here, we clinched, so there was really nothing to play for up until now. But he said best of 3 series. Every game counts, and it's like that college baseball atmosphere. So that dude just plays with ton of just electricity, and
great
he's just
pitching
great.
from so we were all like out there and concerned, like there's no Spivey, like what are we doing here? DeLucia in game 3 was spectacular.
Fire. Yup.
He was awesome. Great. He was awesome. Perez was the only guy that came in and had a little bit of trouble. Of course, gave up those 3 runs there. But I mean, who better to come in and close that game than our boy Sean Rapp, huh? 1 inning, scoreless baseball, close that game out. I mean, you had a 5-run lead anyway, so you didn't really need anything spectacular from Rapp. He gave you spectacular anyway. And the Captains walk away with their first Midwest League championship since, I believe, 2010. I believe that's correct.
Yeah. Yep.
So the as I will quote Logan Petoskey for a minute, the 14-year voyage, get it? Because they're the Captains. I see what you did there, Logan. Very clever. Is over, and they will now be the reigning Midwest League champions, and we'll have to see who ends up making both Akron and Lake County, even down to Lynchburg. There, come around, say what? March, April of next year. See what the rosters look like.
Late March, and I'm going to throw out a prediction. I think it's going to be Bazana. I think he's so hot that they're kind of just going to put him in Double-A, see what he can do.
I would probably have to agree with you there on that one. I really see no reason why you don't put him up there, and maybe even some of the other players in Lake County. I believe there are a couple guys in Akron that might not be with the organization next year. I could be thinking of a different team.
Well, the thing with Akron is, and I looked at it, and we'll touch on this, obviously not today, but a little bit later because I don't have it pulled up, is we have so many Rule 5 draft picks that are so talented. I know Lenny Torres is on that list, Petey Halpin, Aaron Davenport. If we lose him to the Rule 5 draft, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, but
that'll definitely have to be something that we get. That'll definitely have to be something we get together once the minor league playoffs wind down, and sort of where these guys can go.
Rule 5 drafts in like December, so somewhere around there we're gonna have to get
absolutely.
Really
and
going on
I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe we'll come on here and talk some guard ball playoff baseball. But the Clippers, man, I got to tell you how they did in their final series. Let's wrap things up here with the Columbus Clippers because they're in Omaha today. And tomorrow and on Thursday, all 3 games of the playoff series are going to be played in Omaha, which I didn't know. I thought it was still how High A and Double A did it. But
yeah, for sure.
I
know the championship's at a neutral site in Vegas, but I didn't know that this is how they do the first round.
So. They split their final series with Toledo, started out slow, but then got 2 straight shutout wins. Gave up 10 runs in a game there on Friday, and then on Saturday came back and said, you scored 10, we can do better. How's 14? They gave a 14-3 loss to the Mud Hens before they lost the series finale 2-5. So let's preview this series with Omaha, shall we? We, of course, are going to go through the Clippers first. And for those of you that may not have been following Clippers baseball super closely, we're going to tell you who to watch out for. And I mean, maybe we'd be doing the people a favor out there, Taven, by telling them who not to watch out for, because there's a ton of guys within this Cleveland organization, or within this the Columbus team, that are just really, really dangerous. I mean, Jonathan Rodriguez didn't end up getting the call with Stephen Kwan hurt, so he stayed down there. In 118 games he's played for the Clippers this year, 29 home runs. I think that's one of the highest marks among minor league baseball.
Yeah, Jonathan Rodriguez is obviously one of the main vocal points in this lineup, and he's going to be the power that you're going to look for. But, I mean, you have a ton of we'll start with, I think, the most important part for this Columbus team, and why I personally believe that they're going to win the whole thing is because of how many former major league guys that they have on this roster that are still young and that
Tyler
are just
Freeman, Estevan Florial, Gabriel Arias, Jonathan Rodriguez got a call to the show this year.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of named them all, but those guys, and then you have younger guys who've just been delivering. I mean, you have Chase DeLauder, Christian Cairo's been on fire ever since he got there. Juan Burrito's not really on the younger end of things because he's been there all year, but he's still, I mean, a younger guy who can really deliver. Mikael Ramirez, if you really need a third catching bat, but that's just on the hitting side, just the younger guys. But really, what I think is going to separate them and kind of determine where the series is going to go is Doug Nikhazy and Ryan Webb, the young guns.
Yeah, and we'll talk about.
I mean, they started the year in Akron.
We'll talk about pitching matchups a little bit later. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's kind of just the major league presence that this team has. I mean, you obviously have Carrasco there too, who accepted his outright to Columbus after they DFA'd him. So, got a lot to look forward to, especially on the former MLB side.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned Chase DeLauder there as well. He has not played in a game since August 28th. He played 6 games with Columbus.
That is right. He is back on the injured
list.
I can't believe I forgot that. Yeah,
he went right back on the IL. Yeah, Valera. Is he still on there? He's not active for the series?
No, he's out for like 9 to 10 months.
Oh, no, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. God damn,
yeah,
man.
He's out for a minute, which sucks.
Man,
but...
I totally forgot about that. I don't egg on my face, but holy moly. But yeah, I mean, especially having like Chase DeLauder out, that's also brutal because that's another guy that could give you some really, really good things. Injuries are just going to plague him, man. Valera, same issue. Injuries have been there throughout
and another guy
the entirety of his career.
On the roster who's always hurt. It's Valera is always hurt. DeLauder and Espino might be.
Yeah, Espino. Espino is probably the big one.
And I think you look at guys. With him,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick with Espino, I really think just to keep him healthy and just so you get something out of him, I think you bring him into a Class A type of role. Definitely somewhere in the bullpen, but I'd love to see him maybe in like a Hunter Gaddis or a Cade Smith, really set up guy, because this guy isn't a starter. Obviously, he goes down every single year. I really think you just have to put him into the bullpen.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, so some of the guys that you're going to see here throughout this Columbus lineup here, obviously the guys we've mentioned, the guys that have seen the show this year. Jonathan Rodriguez is by far and away the biggest name on the Columbus team up to this point that is healthy and that is going to play. He's been lights out when he's been in a Clipper uniform this season. Gabriel Arias is there, Tyler Freeman, Estevan Florial, Brian Lavastada. All of those guys have seen the show. But let me tell you, there is a ton more talent here on this team. Christian Cairo steals bases like no one else. He had a home run in that past series there as well. Dom Nunez is there. You have Reynel Delgado. And let me tell you what a series he had against Toledo, man. He was hitting
one of the most underrated players.
Absolutely.
All of minor league baseball. This dude's insane. He hit 275 this year with 9 home runs. So he's definitely going to play a role.
Yeah, Juan Burrito, Micah Pries, Mikel Ramirez, and again, Ramirez and Cairo we saw in Akron this season. There is a ton to look forward to within this Clipper batting order, and we will sort of break it down a lot more later. But you take a look at where the team ranks in terms of just pretty much all of the hitting stats. I mean, they're third in the International League in home runs. They are the only International League team with above an 800 OPS. They have an 804 OPS. So there's a stat there for you. I believe they are top 3 in batting average. I'm fact checking that right now. Yes, they are. They are 2 with a 263 batting average. They have the 3rd most stolen bases with an even 200. And you take a look at extra base hits there as well. They have not that many doubles, comparatively speaking, but they have the 4th most triples. They are just 1 behind Indianapolis, 2 behind St. Paul, and then Nashville is a triple machine down there. Obviously, when they get extra base hits, they go for the fence. They go for the home run, but Columbus has been hitting it lights out all season long, and it's why this lineup is so Sorry, there's a bug in here. I think I just killed it. This lineup is so dangerous, man. It's got so many great hitters. It's got so many guys that can punish pitching. That's exactly what you need in a playoff scenario.
Yeah, you really touched on it. Just the depth that this team has, especially even with the injuries. If you had DeLauder and Valera, watch out. But even without them, I mean, especially at the catching position, Lavastida, Dom Nunez, Mikael Ramirez, they can all rake. The infielders, you only have 5, but I mean, each of them are all really talented. And from the outfield perspective,
They didn't call anyone up. They didn't call any bat up from Akron, did they?
No, it was just Bradley Hanner. And
Yeah.
I saw something from, I think,
That's what I
Guards
thought.
Insider that it's not going to be anybody else until the end of the season.
Yeah. All
Well,
right,
technically next season. So
right.
those outfielders are going to get some work. You have Freeman, Estevan Florial, and Jonathan Rodriguez. Obviously, Cairo can play outfield. We've seen that. We've seen Arias play outfield, so they'll be shuffled. But, yeah.
Yeah, and then let's go ahead and transition things on now over into this pitching staff. We do have the 3 guys that are going to be starting here. It is going to be, drumroll please, the former Akron Rubber Duck, Doug Nikhazy, there will be starting game 1. Connor Gillespie will be starting game 2. And then if there is a game 3 to be had, it's another former Duck that got the call this year, Ryan Webb.
Yeah, I love everything that they have, especially Gillespie, who I didn't know what to expect. We got him from Bowie last year. I want to say in the Rule 5 draft. I'm not really sure, though. I think it was.
You
But
might be right about that.
even he showed really good flurries of just the stuff that he has up in the major league level.
Gillespie leads this team in strikeouts this year. He's got 119. Next guy is Will Dion with 116, which I'm honestly kind of surprised they're not going to start pitching him, but I think he
just pitched on Sunday.
Yeah.
Was Dion, and I think
Yeah.
they're really going to use him in as a reliever.
kind of like they
'cause
did with Davenport.
He doesn't need because he doesn't need a lot of innings. Like every start, he normally goes 4 to 5. So I really think
Right.
that's where they got that from. And he just pitched. But I mean, Ryan Webb, another guy in Akron, he was just lights out. And then Doug Nikhazy, who I've loved for the past 2 years.
And
That
if
dude
you
is
wanna-
insane.
Yeah,
He's
well,
definitely your
and
game 1
if-
starter.
Oh yeah, what I was gonna say is if you want to start out a series hot and you want to get that series opening win, especially because there will be no game in Columbus to be played. All 3 of these games, of course, are in Omaha. Nikhazy, 287 ERA, 75 strikeouts over 13 starts, only 51 hits, 24 runs, all of them earned. He's only given up 8 home runs this year. Walk to strikeout ratio is good, only allowing opponents to hit 195. Absolutely the guy you want to throw out there and start game 1. But then you even look at a lot of the guys here that are going to be in this bullpen for you. A guy like Tanner Burns, who for the most part this year, I know
love
that,
him. And he was a part of the no-hitter that Columbus had.
Yep. Yes, he was. That was something
him,
else. That,
Anthony Ghost, Labout, and I don't know who the starter was.
yeah,
I want to say Gillespie. I'm going to look it up.
that's what I
real
think.
quick.
Yeah, because I think it was Wednesday that they had the no-hitter, the combined no-hitter. And by the way, it was either the game after or
it was Gillespie.
yeah. So it was either the game after or it was the game that they got the no-hitter that Columbus clinched a playoff spot. Because again, like I told you, their magic number was 1. And that win on Wednesday against Toledo. Was it Wednesday that they had the no-hitter? Was it Thursday? Because if it was Wednesday, by the way, what a story. I mean, you get a no-hitter to clinch your playoff berth? That's crazy.
Not getting an exact date. So this says that it was the no-hitter post was posted 5 days ago. So
That would have been Thursday.
3, 4, 5. Yep. No-hitter was Thursday.
No-hitter was there. I really want to fact check that, actually. Oh, yeah.
The score was 2-0.
It was.
So
Yeah, it was the Thursday game. Okay, so the day after they clinch their playoff spot, they get the no-hitter. But again, I mean, Tanner Burns goes. You have right now, why can't I remember his name? Karinchak up there in Columbus.
Love Karinchak. I know the
Yep.
dude's always hurt and pretty inconsistent in the majors, but I love
And a fireball.
Love the intensity that dude brings. So love Karinchak. Another guy who doesn't get talked about enough is Franco Alamán. The dude is insane down there.
Actually, just about to touch on him.
And him and Burns are gonna, or not Burns, excuse me, Hanner. They're gonna be the real deal when it comes to closing out these ball games. I mean, the record's 1-2, but closers obviously don't have the best of records. Barely gonna get an opportunity for a win. But his ERA is 1.99. Only 22 innings pitched on the year. He's been banged up a lot, but 34 strikeouts within those 22. So he's getting well over a strikeout every time, every inning he goes in there. So I just love everything Alamán has.
Strzelski, I believe, is how you pronounce that last name as well. I definitely butchered that one, by the way, but he's the guy that can come out of the bullpen and give you some innings. I know really no one on this pitching staff besides Alamán, again, a guy that has a 1.99 ERA, and Nikhazy has a super impressive ERA. I mean, Gose has a 3.22. But I mean, overall, top to bottom, I mean, the ERA, I don't think is going to tell the story here of this pitching staff, because this pitching staff is good.
Yeah, for sure. Top to bottom. I mean, I really think you have something with your starters, but I think that bullpen is really just where you're going to win that game, and you can really rely on, kind of like the thing in the major leagues where obviously with the Guardians, the starting pitching staff's not great, but it's serviceable. And especially with that bullpen, you have enough right there to really make a run. Guys like Bibee and Lively, and outside of really hit those two and Boyd, I really don't think you have much for starters, but you turn to that bullpen with guys like Clase, Cade Smith, and Hunter Gaddis, they're going to shut things down. I think kind of the same thing here outside of Nikhazy, Webb, and Gillespie. Don't really have much. Will Dion's been really inconsistent, but you turn to that bullpen, you have guys like Karen Shack, now Bradley Hanner, Tanner Burns, and Franco Alamán. I really think that's going to really, you can rely on them, and that's where you're going to get the most strength out of your pitching staff.
Shall we take a look at the Omaha Storm Chasers, my friend?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. I have not done much research on them, so I'm going to let you take this first.
Yeah, so, I mean, I want to pull up their active roster, by the way, because I want to make sure I don't slip up here and say anyone that is not currently on that roster. But interesting thing about me here, Taven, and to all the viewers out there, I grew up in Omaha, man. I've been around Storm Chasers baseball. I've been around the Royals organization plenty of times, seen many games in Kauffman Stadium, seen many games in Warner Park. Shout out to Warner Park. And these two teams have playoff history before. I do want to say 2021, I think it was. It was some time ago, but the Clippers and hang on now. The Clippers and Storm Chasers have had playoff history before. Taven, while I'm running through Omaha here, you see if you can find anything on that. Because I am not finding anything as fast as I want it to.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll try for just a little bit more here. But yeah, I don't think. Okay, so if you can find out, because I know these two teams played in the playoff at some point in recent history, I just cannot, for the life of me, remember what year it was. If you can find that out, I would be very appreciative of you doing so.
Do you think it's a championship game, or do you think it was just
I think
a playoff game?
I don't know if there's a way for you to. I don't know if there's a way for you to look at like AAA baseball playoff history.
I'm on the past championship games right now. So, yup, here it is. September 20th of 2011, the Clippers beat the Omaha Storm Chasers in how many games? But the final score, the last game was 8-3 Clippers. So 2011.
Go look at, like, again, you're on the championship side, right? So go back to like 2022, 2021. Who was in the championship series there?
On what?
Who was in AAA baseball playoffs? Sorry to all you fine people out there. This is taking a little bit
just run down some of the no. That's their current roster. I was trying to see who's on this 2011 Clippers team.
No, that would actually be interesting. Yeah, that was so that's the AAA thing there, right? 2019 it might have been actually. It might have been 2019.
Okay.
So I'm going to fact check myself there. Anyway,
This is a heck of a lineup. Jason Kipnis is on
Really?
that team, so that tells you how long ago that was. Lonnie Chisenhall, another notable name.
Wow, man, wow.
Telling me Grady Sizemore is on this team too.
No way, you're kidding.
So I'm going to have to say that, yeah, 28-year-old Grady Sizemore. So I wonder if it had been like a rehab assignment or something.
Yeah, and he played some baseball.
22 Lonnie Chisenhall, 24 Jason Kipnis. Or maybe it was a Tyler Freeman situation where he really wasn't doing the best and they kind of sent him down toward the end of the year. But yeah, that tells you how long ago that was. Last time that those two met in at least a championship game.
That's crazy. Well, so needless to say, these two teams have seen each other in a postseason setting before. I apologize to all of you out there for that for it taking us that long to find. And maybe someone found it and we just didn't see it. But I mean, this is an Omaha team that you want to start with the bats or you want to start with the pitching here?
Let's go bats.
All right, we'll start out with the bats. I'll tell you what they do as a team here first, if I could ever get anything to load on my laptop, which is being annoyingly slow right now, so apologies for that.
And we can fill some time with something that just came out that I cannot believe. So the All-Star teams came out for the Eastern League, which is the Ducks league that they're in, if anybody didn't know. Not really any complaints on the hitting side. We had Andrew Walters and Parker Messick. Both were named All-Stars. And that's where I it really doesn't make sense. So Aaron
Is that where the pitching side of it ends?
Well, for us, those were our only
and
All-Stars.
Austin Peterson.
On the offensive side of things, well, Austin Peterson was named a high A All-Star. So I think that's where they kind of drew the line on that. Davenport makes 0 sense at all just for an all-star case, and they gave pitcher of the year to Brandon Sproat of Binghamton, and that makes 0 sense in my mind at all. Whoever voted Sproat, and no offense to Sproat, he had a good year. It wasn't, I wouldn't say a great year, but it's not what Aaron Davenport did at all.
He had a pretty darn good year.
He went 7-4 with a 3.4 ERA and 131 strikeouts. Now, here's Aaron Davenport's stats. 7-4, same record. He had pitched in 3 more games. He had a 2.85 ERA and 135 strikeouts. So Davenport pitched in more games, more innings, has the same record, has more strikeouts, and a better ERA.
Well,
where's the line for really Sproat to win this thing?
Well, I'm not going to get too caught up in that. I mean, good for Brandon Sproat. The guy's a good pitcher. And he probably had like a no-hitter or a complete game or something in there that Davenport didn't have. And Davenport was even flustered a little bit down the stretch there.
Still, he's better in every stat besides whip, and he's only off by 0.07.
Well, whip is a pretty important stat. Let's continue talking about the Omaha Storm Chasers here. And you said you wanted to start with the hitting side. So as a team, they have the 4th most home runs in the International League. They are only 2 behind Columbus. And you take a look at their other extra base hits, a team that has, I think, 25 triples on the year. And again, they can get extra base hits, not just by slapping it over the fence. They have 287 doubles on the year, which is 3rd in all of the International League. They're not a team that's going to steal a lot of bases. They've only stolen 125 again, compared to the Clippers 20 that we were talking about earlier here. But their top half of the International League in batting average. They're batting above 257. Their OPS is 785, which is 4th in the International League. Again, as I said, Columbus leads that category. Their overall runs scored for Omaha, they're 5th. Columbus is 4th. These are two teams that have some really, really good bats. And you want to say, okay, Nate, well, who's in this lineup? Kind of like the situation with the Clippers here, man. It's a lot of guys that have seen major league time before, or guys that are just really, really good. Nick Lofton, Nate Eaton, Austin Nola, Nick Pratto. All of those guys have seen major league time throughout their career. And you want to talk about guys that haven't. I mean, Tyler Gentry hit 2 home runs this previous series. Drew Waters has been lights out and was on fire, had 12 hits in 4 games over the last 7 days, which is just absolutely absurd. John Rave is a hitter that, pun absolutely intended here, you rave about because of what he does. I'll look at season-long stats here in just a little bit. Other guys like Brian O'Keefe, Cam Devaney, Rodolfo Duran, Ryan Fitzgerald, Devin Mann, and so many other guys that can beat you. And I'll go back here and tell you their overall stats. But surprisingly enough, because of the amount of players that they have here in that have seen major league time, isn't really anyone on that sort of prospect list, right? Well, 2024 for this guy that they actually just called up, he is the 13th ranked prospect in their organization. Name is Javier Vaz. He was in AA Texas here for most of this season and throughout the year. 263 batting average with a 754 OPS, stole 16 bases on the year, has 8 home runs, 22 doubles, 42 RBIs, 60 strikeouts to 73 walks. Very impressive walk to strikeout ratio. So he's going to be another guy that's going to end up being a big part there of that lineup. But Tyler Gentry is the 15th ranked prospect within the Royals organization. But other than that, it is a lot of pitching, which we will talk about in just a little bit here. That is the main storyline and the guys that are really high up in this organization, at least in prospect ranking wise. But I mean, you just talk about a lot of players here. I mean, John Rave, 21 home runs on the year, is batting 259, 17 stolen bases, 60 RBIs. And then kind of like a situation where we were talking about it with, I think it was Wisconsin when we were previewing the Lake County series. Maybe it was Erie when we were talking about the Akron series. But there are, quick math here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that have played time, and I think that are currently on the roster, maybe except for one in CJ Alexander. I don't think he is currently active at the moment. I will fact check that. But I mean, 9 guys at least that have over 50 RBIs on the season, which is absolutely insane. And yes, CJ, the aforementioned CJ, is not currently active. CJ Alexander might be with the Royals right now. I'm not too sure on that, but he was hitting 303. He was the most dangerous bat here in that lineup, and so you don't have him to worry about, but still a lot of guys that can hit home runs. All of those guys, by the way, that have at least 50 RBIs also have at least 13 home runs. This is another situation kind of like Akron, where you take a look at this Omaha lineup and you say, okay, it's not a matter of, who's going to step up and make that big hit. It's like, all right, who's going to step up? Who's going to make that big hit? Because they all can do it. All of them can. Rave, Devaney, O'Keefe, Eaton, Gentry, Pratto, Fitzgerald, Mann, Waters. You even extend that down. I mean, Nick Lofton, Nelson Velasquez, Austin Nola is in there as well, and just a ton of other guys throughout this lineup that can really do damage, man. This is going to be a hell of a task for the Clippers pitching staff.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it's like a qualification you have to have just to be in the lineup, and you have to have over 13 home runs, because it seems like everybody on this roster has over 13 home runs. You have Devaney, he has 19.
Devaney, I think.
Ryan Fitzgerald, he has 14 home runs just going through here. Devin Mann has 13 home runs. Nick Pratto, He has 16 home runs. Nate Easton has 16 home runs. Tyler Gentry, 16 home runs. John Rave, 21. He's obviously the main bat in that lineup. Drew Waters, he has 13 home runs, and they all hit for average too. Like even Waters with the 13 home runs he has, he's hitting
all of them are
290.
above 240. All of them are above 240. All of them.
Right. So that's definitely the number one sort of point in this series that I see is it's going to be, can Columbus's pitching really attack these bats that they have? And it was a lot like we saw in the Lake County series. Dayton had so many bats that were so dangerous, and it was, could Wilkinson and DeLucia really shut them down along with that bullpen? I think we're going to see the same thing here.
And you take a look at the overall standings from International League play, and this is just simply how good this Storm Chasers lineup and team overall was this season. Columbus had the best second half by far, right? They had the best second half. 80 and 68 is where their overall season rankings sit. They finished second place in the International League West Division. They were still 9 games back of the Storm Chasers for the overall lead. That's how impressive Omaha has been this season.
But that also shows that they lost a lot. They obviously were red hot out of the gate in the first half, and now they've obviously lost some pieces to the Royals that they brought up. And
so first half record,
I don't want to say they're not as hot, but obviously they're not where they were.
So first half record for the Storm Chasers was 49 and 24. You compare that to the second half record for the Clippers, they were 48 and 26. So again, much to your point, very comparable halves. It's just Omaha had a much better second half than Columbus had a first half.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
So again, we kind of just touched on it there. The bats, and I mean, are going to be a huge key for Columbus to shut down there. Let's move on over to the pitching side of things, and I'll even give you some Columbus pitching stats as a team because I know we didn't really go through that. Again, the ERA, I don't think necessarily is going to speak that volume there in Columbus. They have the 7th best ERA in the Eastern League with a 4.70. You want to take a look at the total number of strikeouts. Columbus is 5th with almost 1,400. Their WHIP, I think for the most part, pretty solid and towards the top here. They're in the top half. They finished 10th in the Eastern League. And home runs given up, that's the other big one I did want to look at. Columbus is giving up the most home runs in the International League, which is a huge thing to watch for here because when you flip it and you take a look at a lot of these numbers, you take a look at what Omaha has done from an ERA standpoint. Best ERA in the International League with a 4.21. Their strikeouts, I mean, nothing crazy, only 1,266 strikeouts. That puts them 15th in the International League. So not a team that's going to strike a lot of guys out, but they don't walk really any batters. Columbus had the second most walks in the International League. Omaha has the 8th fewest walks. And in terms of the home run ball, again, we know that both of these teams can hit. Both these teams hit for, or I should say swing for the fences. Omaha's given up the 3rd fewest home runs as a pitching staff there in the International League. And we also do know at least 2 of the pitchers that will be going for Omaha here in this Eastern League, or not Eastern League. I have Eastern League on the brain. The International League West sort of a divisional series. The guy that gets the start there for game 1 is a guy by the name of Noah Cameron. Now, Noah Cameron, the highest ranked AAA prospect in the Royals organization, at least the guy that's in AAA.
So.
Yeah, AAA right now. You take a look at his stats, 2.32 ERA in 9 starts with the Storm Chasers this year, 62 strikeouts, only 14 earned runs. He's given up 6 homers all year. And I mean, you take a listen to this strikeout walk ratio, 62 strikeouts, 11 walks. That is absurd. And again, rightfully so. You probably have the best starting pitcher. And I say starting pitcher because there's a guy I want to talk about out of this Omaha bullpen that is insane. But
wait, whose stats were you running through real quick?
Noah Cameron was who I just ran through. The guy that's going to get the start in game 1.
Yeah, that's not what I have on my end. For Cameron stats.
I'm looking at just his Omaha stats.
Oh, just his Omaha stats. Okay,
yeah,
I was looking at the entire
well,
year. Yep.
Well, why don't you go through his entire year then? I mean, again, that's just 9 games. That's a small sample size. Talk about what he's done this whole year.
He's pitched 25 games this year. He's 7-6 on the year, which it's the minor leagues. Record's a record, but he has a 3.08 ERA. And in 128 innings, the dude has 149 strikeouts. A huge strikeout pitcher.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's really what Columbus is going to have to try to avoid on their side of the offensive things is can they not strike out? I know Jonathan Rodriguez is a lot like Alex Plana is a guy who likes to strike out. So that's something you really got to watch for on that end. Is can Cameron really shut that down? And then there kind of goes your power. So that's a huge point in this series.
As a team, overall, Columbus does not strike out that much. They have, I think, the 6th fewest strikeouts in the entirety of the Eastern League.
Yeah.
But again, Noah Cameron throughout his time with Omaha, again, I read through his stat line in Omaha. I mean, 2.32 ERA, I'll just read it again, 62 strikeouts to 11 walks, only 14 earned runs. The kid has been absolutely sensational.
For sure.
And then we'll talk about the guy that is going to get the start there in game 2. Again, we don't know who's going to be starting game 3 for Omaha. I can sort of give you a little bit of an idea, but it's going to be Chandler Champlain. And throughout 20 games started, 21 games pitched in Omaha this year, 5.61 ERA with a 4.9 record, 72 strikeouts to 46 walks. He's given up 17 long bombs, the most out of any pitcher on the Storm Chasers staff this year. He's tied for the most hits given up here as well. And I mean, you take a look at some of the other guys that they could have gone with here to be able to start that game. You can't end up going with a guy in Daniel Lynch. He's not with the team right now, but he's got a 3.54 ERA and an 8-1 record. He might be with Kansas City right now. You could go with a guy by the name of Jonathan Bowlen, but again, you go ahead and take a look at him. I mean, he leads the team in strikeouts with 98 of them, 34 walks. He's given up 14 home runs, 4.67 ERA, has started in 16 games. You could have gone with him again. I really don't know who else you would have gone with here. Obviously, I think they went with their best starter that they have on the roster right now in Noah Cameron to start that game. Maybe Dinelson Lamet, who I believe has also seen the major leagues before with San Diego. The name sounds familiar to me. He has 35 strikeouts to 29 walks. So, I mean, Champlain, probably the guy that you were going to say, hey, we trust you the most out of anyone right now. Go get him, Tiger, and puts him out there to start out game 2. But if the Clippers can get out of Dodge with a win in game 1, I mean, that game 2 pitching matchup is a lot more favorable, especially when you take a look and Gillespie is on the mound. By the way, that's a righty-righty matchup. Game 1 is going to be a lefty-lefty matchup.
So my thing with Champlain is obviously you look at his stats, they aren't the most appealing stat line at all. You have a 5.07 ERA on the year. Then 120 strikeouts, which is good. And the whip's up there too. The record's obviously not there, but a guy, I wouldn't count Champlain out no matter what, because a guy whose stat line is almost exact is a guy who the Clippers have, and I really loved him in Akron. He's struggled a little bit this year, but he's got great stuff. He has a 5.48 ERA with a 1.5 whip and 116 strikeouts. The whip, the ERA, and the strikeouts are almost identical. Do you know who it is? Before I say the name.
Is it the guy that's in Columbus right now?
Yeah.
The only guy that'd come to mind would be that of Ryan Webb.
Will Dion.
5.48
ERA,
wow. Okay.
116 strikeouts to Champlain's 120. The ERA is only off by 0.4, and the whip's only off by 0.1. And I love everything that Dion has. So to count Chandler's Champlain out would kind of be dumb, especially for Columbus.
Yeah, no, not what I was trying to do there at all. And your point, absolutely, man. That's wow. That is shocking.
Yeah, I didn't know. Stats are almost exact too. Crazy.
Wow, that's crazy. And again, we here like Will Dion. We like what he's about. Yeah, he's got to get more consistent.
Oh yeah, he's sweet.
Maybe it's awesome the same thing. Maybe it's the same thing with Chandler Champlain, and going back and looking at a couple of Champlain's games, I did a little bit of that before. I mean, when he's on, man, he's on. He's a pretty damn good pitcher, and I think it's going to provide some pretty solid innings there. Again, who starts Game 3? We don't know. It could be that of Jonathan Bowlen. It could be that of Dinelson Lamet. Yeah, if there is a Game 3, it could be that of I just lost it. Dinelson Lamet, who again, I believe the name sounding very familiar, has seen time in the major leagues before. Could be a couple other guys because Michael Lorenzen is on a rehab assignment right now. You also have Josh Taylor, who's on a rehab assignment right now. Michael Lorenzen, man, if he gets that start for Game 3 in a rehab,
oh yeah.
Yeah, that might be where Omaha's trying to go with that. But that's all I got for the starting rotation. You want to move on into the bullpen, and I'm going to save the best name for last year because, look, there's a lot of sweet guys in this bullpen, man. Austin Cox, Steven Cruz, Noah Murdoch, Will Klein. There are a ton of guys that can come in, that can get you innings, that can shut the lineup down. But the one guy is the closer for the Storm Chasers, who is filthy, nasty, ridiculous, whatever other adjective you want to throw out there. In 58 games pitched, this pitcher in 17 save opportunities has saved 15 games, 57 and a third innings pitched. He's only allowed 13 runs all season in 58 games, 57 innings. Only 10 of them have been earned, 81 strikeouts to 26 walks, only hit 3 batters, and only 33 hits allowed on the season. Again, a 1.57 ERA, 6-2 record is a guy by the name of Evan Sisk. He is ridiculous. And if the Clippers face him, I mean, we know how good this Columbus lineup is. The only thing that I can say, good luck, man. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, you're completely right. I mean, this dude, he's 27, so he's definitely on the older side of things, and he's been around for a minute. He was drafted in 2018, but he is just great. And I don't want to run into him in the major leagues once he gets there, but I mean, just looking now, the only really guy...
Him and Noah Murdoch are the two guys that haven't given up home runs this year.
Right, and you look at his stats, and there's only one guy that really comes to mind, and that was 2022 Cade Smith when he was with the Rubber Ducks, just absolutely on fire. And that's kind of what you have here with this dude. I mean, he's the vocal point of this bullpen, and I really think that he might get the call maybe 2 out of 3. In my opinion, 2 out of 3 games, definitely 2, maybe 3.
I was going to say he could be the guy like Bradley Hanner and pitch all 3 games in a closing game scenario, especially if these games are close, which I think both you and I expect them to be, because both these teams have some, for the most part, solid pitching. It can be shaky at times, and some really, really good bats in that lineup. But there's kind of your little Omaha preview, guy. Do we have any questions in the chat before we sort of dive on in to sort of our keys here?
Not really a question per se, but Ethan does have a very good point.
Ethan,
all right,
let's talk about it. So I am
kind of have the same question going on here.
No, okay, all right. So you see the number, okay? You let's flip it around for a minute there. I can be a Guardians fan and still have a man crush on Joey Votto, okay? One of, if not my favorite baseball players of all time. I love Joey Votto. I love everything he's about. When I saw this on sale, I was like, I have to get it. I just have to. Guardians fan, live and die hard. Jose Ramirez, probably my favorite player, but Joey Votto is a very, very close second, if not tied for that front. I love what he's about. It's the only Reds thing I will own. I shouldn't say that. It's the only Reds thing. It's the only Reds thing I own currently. I know. I have the Guards hat on.
You're
okay, I have the Guards hat on. I showed the shirt at the beginning, man.
That is
by
true,
the way,
I forgot.
After this, the White Sox have been the worst team in baseball. So
good. Can't stand them either.
But yeah, let's sort of dive on into our keys here really quickly, because then we could have a little time to talk about some guard ball for a minute. Of course, I got to go record something else after this, but keys to the series here. Again, the Taven, I think we hammered at home all point long, but for both of these teams, I mean, let's really just speak generally here, because I think the keys are the same for both of these sides. Get the home run ball working, attack the other team starting pitching early and often. For Columbus, though, I will throw in an additional key, and it's run the bases, man. Look, you can hit the ball over the wall as much as you want. There are going to be moments in this series where base running is going to matter, and that is going to be the one X factor that Columbus has. Omaha does everything as well, if not better, than Columbus when it comes to hitting the baseball far and hard. The one thing that Columbus has going for them that Omaha really doesn't is base running. It has to be vital here in this series.
Yeah, 100%. Base running, I mean, it wins you games. You kind of play the small ball rule, and that's what Lake County does. It's what Lynchburg does. It's what Akron does. It's what Columbus kind of does too, and the Guardians. I mean,
I'm noticing
a
theme here. Noticing a theme.
Yeah. Also, another theme is I assume we're going to do predictions for this series after.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll save it for then. But I think not really a key to the game, but one thing that I think is going to determine it is, can Akron's pitching hold up? That
Columbus.
Omaha team, Columbus. Geez, I'm getting all over the place. Columbus pitching
I'm there
has
with you, so it's okay.
A lot of young arms. Ryan Webb and Nikhazy. Do I think they can come through all day? They've done it in Akron, and they're doing it in Columbus. But that Omaha team has the most stacked batting lineup I think I've seen in the minors this year. Every single person on that team can rake, exactly like in Erie that we saw, in Dayton that we saw. I think it's the same thing with Omaha. So I really just think it's going to be, can Columbus's pitching hold up against Omaha's kind of offense?
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely is the big thing. And honestly, you could say that for the Omaha side of things too. Again, 195 home runs for Columbus, 193 home runs for the Omaha Storm Chasers. Now, Omaha has a little bit of better pitching, but again, the Clippers are not going to be pitching either that of they're not going to be pitching either that.
I think in a 3-game series,
Allen.
Columbus has the pitching aspect definitely on our side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over a full 5 or 7, probably not.
Who knows, but best of 3 for sure. I think we have the advantage in that category.
I don't necessarily think we have the advantage. I think it's a lot more even, because I love Noah Cameron. I love what he's about. I love everything that he's done with the Storm Chasers since he's been up there in.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know if Chandler can really hold up. I think Ryan Webb just kind of.
You're going against your own words here. You're telling me to not count him out, and now you're counting him out. What is happening here?
You can't. I'm not counting him out, but I'm not confident in him as much as a Ryan Webb or a Gillespie. I think those guys have been on fire all year. You've seen signs out of Champlain that he hasn't been great. Do I think he can't be? I think he can go out there and definitely give you 5 to 6 inning game and only give up 1 or 2 runs. I think he can easily do that, but can he kind of do it consistently is what I'm kind of trying to say here, especially against a talented Columbus lineup.
Well, let's go ahead and dive on into our predictions here, because again, all 3 games are going to be in Omaha. And as someone that has been to Warner Park many a times to watch the Clippers both win and lose in that ballpark, as well as watch a lot of other Storm Chasers baseball, man, that crowd, when it is packed, it is fun. I tell you what, that crowd gets fun, especially the people that sit out there on the outfield berm. I mean, they are crazy. They really light that thing up. So, man, game by game here, I'm going to let you start us off here with the prediction. Actually, I lied to you. Sit down. I'm going to start this one. Nikhazy versus Cameron. Again, I like Noah Cameron, maybe not as much as I like Doug Nikhazy, because I really, really like Doug Nikhazy. I just have a feeling, though, this is an Omaha team that's going to come out. They're going to set the tone. They're going to say, look, man, this is what we are about. I don't think this lineup is going to carve Nikhazy out, per se, but I do think they're going to get to him more often than not. And I think, again, the Columbus bats and the Columbus lineup will not be able to do as much as they need to do to be able to win it. Evan Sisk will come in and close that game out. I got Omaha winning game 1, but again, much to your point there, Champlain, again, not counting him out, but to your point, not really too confident in him. I think Connor Gillespie's the better pitcher there, and Columbus is too good to rebound. They have been the hottest team in AAA baseball up to this point, so I'll go with Columbus. And game 3, man, winner take all. We don't know who's pitching for the Storm Chasers yet. We'll have to wait and see. If it's Michael Lorenzen on the rehab assignment, I'd be very nervous as a Clippers fan. I'd be very nervous. I'd be very wild and mindful. But the thing that you have to realize, and this is a philosophy that you can even apply into the major leagues as well, and usually it prevails. More often than not, it comes true. The hottest teams at the end of the season perform better in October. In this case, September, and it's true for every level of baseball. The Clippers have been the hottest team in AAA baseball. Maybe not down the stretch over the final couple of series, but overall, they've played like the best team. They have the roster to back it up, and I think Columbus, down 1-0 after the first game, comes back, wins game 2, and in a close game of all-time game in game 3, they take it away in Omaha. They rip the hearts out of the Storm Chasers, and I think Columbus is going to be moving on there to face the winner of, I'm going to get the two teams here in just a second. Why can't I find them? 1 second. Oh, okay. Never mind. It's just Omaha and Columbus there for the International League, because then I think the AAA has like an interleague thing.
Yep, that's what they're that's what the neutral site is for in Vegas.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah,
you're 3 for 3 on series predictions. You got
I am
both Lake County and Akron.
Yeah, I am. So you're 2 for 3, but I mean, come on. What are the predictions here looking like for this Clipper series?
So, I mean, as much as I really love Doug Nikhazy, it's really tough because I do think this series is going to go 3. Like that's for sure. I might mix up game 1 or 2, but it'll go 3 100% because that's what happened.
All of the playoff series
just with
we
the comment,
previewed so far have gone 3.
Common series, Lake County, Akron, and then I think we're due to go 3 as well. So I think Columbus, it's going to go to game 3. I'm going to go with Omaha in game 1, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 score. I think Doug Nikhazy goes 5 and like maybe 2/3 innings with just giving up like a run. And then somebody from the bullpen might give up 1, but I don't think the bats are really going to get going against, drawing a blank on his name, Noah Cameron. Enough, and I think they're kind of just going to shut that down, especially with the closer, whose name I can't think of either right now, who has
Evan Sisk.
Yep, Sisk, who's been on fire. So I'm going to go with them in game 1. But a lot, like I said, I don't know if Champlain can stay consistent, and I really don't think that he is. In a winner go home scenario, I love Columbus in it. I think Jonathan Rodriguez is going to have a home run in this game. In game 2, I think Freeman's going to get on 2 to 3 times, steal a couple bases.
Cairo especially.
Just play small ball, and I think Columbus is going to get it, and then that brings you to game 3, and you have Ryan Webb, who I absolutely love. He was in Akron, and he's been on fire all season. And in a game 3, it's hard to bet against us, so I'm going to go with Columbus. I really think they're just going to play on fire after kind of losing that first game. And you mentioned they're the hottest team in the second half, and they have been. So I'm going to go with Columbus.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking there too. In the Columbus Clippers in 3. It's going to be a very exciting series though. And I mean, honestly, what a joy it's going to be for me to watch the Storm Chasers and Clippers go at it, because I've sported a Storm Chasers jersey before. Again, my rule is I root for them when they don't play the Clippers. Unfortunately, Storm Chasers, sorry, you're playing the Clippers in this one, man. I got to root for the side of Columbus. I do think they're going to win this one in 3, especially not knowing who is pitching in game 3 gives us a little bit more of like a hindsight, and let's hope they start this guy over this guy again. If Michael Lorenzen pitches that game, biting your nails
Yeah.
there on that one, because that's going to be scary. Even if a guy like Denelson Lamet starts that game, again, a guy that has MLB experience, I'd be a little worried there as well. But again, this lineup, the main concern there for the Omaha Storm Chasers, who, by the way, I don't think we mentioned this, took the season series against Columbus. I think it was like 14-12 or 14-11, something like that. But these are two teams that have not played each other since June 25th or 26th. I don't think they played it all over the second half of the season. So this is the Storm Chasers team that has not seen the better version of the Columbus Clippers yet this year.
Yeah, that's going to be real interesting. And obviously, since June, your lineup changes. A guy like Miles Straw not there anymore. Even I think at that point, Cairo wasn't even there yet. So Logan Allen was still with the club. So a lot of new faces in a lot of new places. So I wouldn't really necessarily kind of take that record for anything, just the fact that they haven't played each other since late June. So this is two totally new teams, and it's going to be real fun to watch.
That game starts at 7:35 Eastern Time, 6:35 Central Time, and convert it to whatever you will if you're watching in any other time zone. We got a little bit of time here, Tavin. And Ethan, I know you're watching, my man. Any guards questions, throw them down there. But Taven and I are going to start the conversation off by saying, hey, the magic number is 0 for a playoff spot. It's 0 for an AL Central title. It is 1 for a first round bye. A win against the Cincinnati Reds. Joey Votto, I'm sorry. I don't mean to desecrate your jersey, my sweet king, but it is going to be thrown over there for the minute, because today it's guard dog time, baby. We win today, we get the first round bye, man. How exciting is that for a team that has played very subpar compared to their first half? Has figured out ways to continue to win games. They lost the last two in St. Louis, sure, but right now it's about getting healthy. It's about being able to find what. And again, I mean, they got a lot of help from the Royals, who have just, I mean, speaking of the Omaha Storm Chasers, the Royals, woof, they look bad down the stretch. They look really bad. The Twins don't look much better.
I told you it's not going to last.
But the Detroit Tigers, just gonna sneak right past you there. Sorry about that. In a wild card spot. How about that, man?
Yeah, that's obviously the biggest shocker just all year. And they just brought up Jackson Jobe, one of the top pitching prospects in the league, to try to help them obviously punch it into the playoffs. I knew 2 years ago I made a prediction that said that they and the Pirates are going to be playoff teams in 2 to 3 years. So I'm getting close on one. Pirates still got a long way to go, because I thought Henry Davis and Nick Gonzalez and those type of prospects are going to come through.
And I mean, you take a look at the final couple of series that both of those teams have to play there. I'm actually going to look at it because I had it at the top of my head. I don't really remember it right now. Kansas City has a series with the Nationals. That's sneaky team, but again, a team they should win. The Twins have the Marlins. Okay, come on, Minnesota, what are you doing? Like, let's crank out some wins here. And then the Tigers have the Tampa Bay Rays. They're actually up 2-0 right now in the top of the ninth with one more out to go. So the Tigers continuing their hot streak here. Again, we know the Rays are not fantastic. And Brandon Lau just homered. So it is now 2-1 Tigers, top of the ninth. Rays need one more run. Tigers need one more out. But, I mean, look, man, Tigers win that one. They're on top of Kansas City if they lose today.
So I assume that Baltimore's already in, correct?
No, they haven't clinched yet.
Wow. Okay.
So let me run through the series real quick. So for the Guardians, obviously it's the 2 games against Cincinnati at home, and then you have 3 against the Stros there. If they somehow lose both games against Cincinnati, which I just don't think is going to happen. Cincinnati again firing manager David Bell earlier this week, and then Houston ends up winning both of their games, or I should say all 3 of their games that they're going to play Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. All Cleveland got to do to clinch a first round bye is beat Houston once, which is going to be tough, but I think it's definitely doable
once in general.
Yeah. One game and you get that first round bye. You get more time to rest up. Happy, healthy, hunky-dory. The Royals, they have 3 against the Nationals and 3 against the Braves, all on the road. Their home set, as far as the regular season goes, is done. The Tigers, you just heard me mention, they are playing the Rays right now, but their final series of the year, the White Sox. If you're talking about a team that, look, they got hot and they took 2 out of 3 from the Orioles. I should say 4 out of 6 from the Orioles. They had 2 series against them down the stretch, and we know the Orioles have been faltering down the stretch as well. Swept the Royals, and now you have probably the easiest path out of anyone in the division to hold on to that wild card spot. I think Detroit is going to get it. The team that I don't think is going to get it, though, is the Minnesota Twins. I think the Royals will find a way to hold on, but the Twins have 3 against the Marlins and 3 against the Orioles. Much like the Royals, the Twins have faltered down the stretch. I think right now, as crazy as it would have sounded a week ago, Detroit, I think, is going to clinch that playoff spot. They're going to be playing some playoff baseball.
Yeah, 100%. I think they got a really good chance to do it. In my opinion, I don't think they're going to do much in the playoffs, especially if you got to run into the veteran Astros.
And the Tigers just secured the win. They have jumped the Royals. And if the Royals lose today, they keep that lead. But I think Royals have tiebreaker. So if the Royals beat the Nationals today, they'd stay on top.
But still, I mean, just getting to the playoffs is just a great accomplishment for the Tigers. But
Tariq Skubal probably going to win Cy Young.
Yeah, and that was another name who was getting thrown around there at the trade deadline, which is
good on crazy. Detroit for holding on to him, man.
For sure, and that's the reason why you're in the playoffs. I don't think you're in this race if you deal him at the deadline.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. The Orioles, I think, are very close to clinching a playoff spot, but again, much like that of the Royals and much like that of the Twins, they've just faltered down the stretch. I mean, the Royals are 2-8 in their last 10. The Twins are 3-7 in their last 10. The Orioles, right there with them, they're 3-7 in their last 10 games. Their pitching especially has really struggled down the stretch. Now, is Tampa Bay going to catch them? No, I think they just got eliminated there with that loss. And if not, they're really close to it. Boston, no, they're not going to catch them. The Orioles are still going to be a playoff team, but there's going to be a lot of shuffling to happen here because now the Tigers just at, I think, 3.5 games back of Baltimore for that number 4 spot. And I mean, they're 3.5 games back, in which, by the way, Baltimore is going to get that 4th seed. They absolutely are going to, and I don't see them falling anything lower than the 5. So it's just a matter and question of, okay, which teams end up making the playoffs here. I think Detroit is going to be a team that gets into the wild card spot. Who's the other one? Kansas City has faltered down the stretch. Minnesota has faltered down the stretch. I could see either of those 2 teams falling out, and Seattle is right there, man. This American League wildcard race, when everyone sat back and said, okay, yep, well, the Royals are going to make it, the Twins are going to make it, the Orioles are going to make it, that's set in stone. I mean, the Tigers are now probably the team that's most likely to get that one of the 2 wild card spots. And the Mariners, man, ever since firing Scott Servais, which at the time I thought was a terrible, terrible idea, has really worked out for them. They might get into the postseason if everything works out for them.
Yeah, and the thing about the Tigers, which is funny, is they're playing their season kind of like they're in the minor leagues with the 2 halves, even though that's not how it works. First half, they didn't do anything at all, and we kind of just thought, oh, same Tigers. Second half, totally different team, playoff contender, and that's why they're pretty much on the verge of getting a playoff spot. So
you know what
I just
else
kind of
we
find
have?
It funny how they played just like
minor leagues. Yeah. You know what else we have the potential for here? We have the potential for the best, biggest, most elaborate and exciting Frank meltdown ever, because the Mets have 3 games against the Braves. The Mets are 2 games ahead of the Braves for a wild card spot, and Atlanta is only 1.5 games back of Arizona right now. San Diego's probably going to end up clinching that spot, but between the Mets, Diamondbacks, and Braves, those are the only other 3 teams alive. Someone has got to fall out of that race, and this is one of the moments where you go, man, I wish this was a 14-team MLB playoffs, because you'd love to see all 3 of those teams there play in the postseason. Someone has got to fall out.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just a great, I mean, both leagues, national and American, just great run down the stretch.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay's not going to be eliminated with that loss to Detroit today, by the way. I think it's mathematically impossible. Now, if Detroit beats them tomorrow, I do think that does eliminate the Tampa Bay Rays. But more exciting wild card race to you. The final spot in the National League or all the chaos that's going on in the AL right now?
I'm going to go with the AL. I mean, everything's neck and neck, especially for us. It's three teams out of the Central who, if a lot goes wrong for Baltimore, they could all make it, and 4 out of the 5 teams in the AL Central could get a playoff spot, which is kind of insane.
What does our friend Ethan Greenberg have to say, or anyone else have to say about anything going on? Anything?
Nothing for the chat, but for Ethan's thoughts, can tune in tomorrow to Going Nuclear, which I'll be on as a guest. So
there you go. Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be. But Ethan, if you're still here and listening, I would love to get on at some point. I got to get flag football season wrapped up, and I'm sure that you understand that. But once flag football season is all wrapped up, hopefully there will still be some Guardians playoff baseball to talk about, or if not, I can come on, talk about the postseason, whatever have you. We can make it work. But I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, there is. I mean, we talked about some of the best teams here. Should we talk about the worst for 2 minutes?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, man. Okay, so today, the White Sox, ladies and gentlemen, are playing the Anaheim Angels. And if the LA of Anaheim Angels can beat the Chicago White Sox, the worst team in MLB history will have been fielded in the year 2024.
Gotta happen.
I'm going to be watching that game so hard. I intently staring at the screen. Let's see who's pitching in the matchup, by the way.
I think if the Angels win, they got to celebrate like it's a no-hitter or something. I want
the
Gatorade
White Sox
flying.
to celebrate.
Yeah.
I want the White Sox to celebrate.
Yep.
Let's have the White Sox celebrate being again. Not only have the White Sox been an abomination after this happened, Tim Anderson has been an abomination after this happened.
Good.
My friend, this was quite an episode. Good luck to the Clippers and sad about the Ducks, but captains, we did it. So there's 1 out of 2 so far, sir. Are we going to be batting 66 or are we going to be batting, we're going to be batting 2 for 3 or 1 for 3? Because, of course, obviously it's 6s or 3s repeating on forever.
Yeah. So it's real tough because obviously you have another series after this for Columbus, but I really think we have a good shot. So I'm going to say positive and go batting 6s.
Last time they made the AAA championship series was 2019. Is that right?
I want to say it was 21, but 19 also sounds right.
All right, we're gonna pull this back up here to close out the show. We're getting back to this, huh? AAA national championship game. So it is just one game. It is literally one game.
Oh, that's it.
Wow.
That's insane.
The last time the Clippers made it was 2019. It was canceled in 2020 due to COVID. And in 2021, it was just quite simply not held. So over the past couple of seasons here, the Durham Bulls won it in 2022. And in 2023, the Norfolk Tides were able to win it. So this year could be the Clippers.
Hopefully.
Could be the Clippers.
We shall see. I think you got a really good chance to do it.
Clippers won it in 2010 and 2011, back-to-back years. The Storm Chasers, by the way, won it in 2013 and 2014. So both teams have some championship pedigree, if you will. It's going to be an exciting series regardless. It's going to be a very exciting series.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else from you, sir? I have other podcasting duties to attend to.
Thank you to all. Set a new goal for live viewership. 88 today, which we We didn't know
with
what we
the
were
new
going to get
time
for changing things kind of last minute this morning to 2:45. But we thank each and every one of you for tuning in.
again, this is going to sound very cliche to say, but this definitely could not happen without all of your support. So we really appreciate it. Go follow me right down there on Twitter or X. I refuse to call it X, but if you want to call it that, I don't care. Go follow me. Go follow Taven. Anything else from the audience before we really close this thing out here?
Nothing for the audience.
We appreciate all of you tuning in. We hopefully will be back at our regular date and time next week. Hopefully, we're talking about a Clippers championship game that has to take place. And once we find out when that championship game is, in fact, they might already have a date announced. They do. It is September 28th, which would be on Saturday. So if there is a Clippers series to be had, Taven, maybe we can come on here Friday or early Saturday. I know it's college football Saturday, so maybe we come on here Friday and sort of talk about what's going to happen with the Columbus Clippers.
For sure,
100%.
If
If, of course, they get that win. And obviously, next week, if the Clippers do end up making that championship series on Monday, we'll be reviewing that and kind of talking about how they were able to get it done or how they fell short, whatever have you. And then it's guard ball playoff baseball time, man. We'll talk about the MLB playoffs and some of the other awards and things that we have seen throughout minor league baseball, and give a shout out to, I think we might even be picking an MVP across minor league baseball next week.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Are we bringing our awards coming back next week?
Either next week or the week after. We definitely should do that. I feel like maybe 100%. The week after, so we have time for like even the AAA stuff to roll out and we can really dive on into that. That'll be coming at some point. We'll figure it out. In the
next 2 weeks. We'll see.
Yeah, next 2 weeks. But as far as it stands as right now, go Clippers, go Guard Dogs. And we'll see all you guys in the next episode. Taven, I'll let you close it out.
Thanks for everybody here today watching. New time, so didn't really know what to expect. Obviously next week, same time on a Monday, and see everybody next week. Go Clippers.